All set?
They're jumping it down.
Okay. You tell me when. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us this lunch hour for WGI's Career Conversation Series. I am Will Schneer, the Chief Marketing Officer for WGI, and we're thrilled to have you join us today and eager to connect with you and connect you with some of the young professionals who are driving growth and results for us at WGI. WGI is a multidiscipline professional services firm leading in technology-based design solutions for the construction of public infrastructure and real estate development. At WGI, we like to say that we're providing tomorrow's infrastructure solutions today. The built environment and the process by which we envision, design, and build infrastructure is changing faster than ever. With over 600 design professionals spread across 18 offices in some of the most desirable locations in the country, we are at the leading edge of this sea change. Our aim for our Career Conversation series is to provide value to our audience in an open forum and platform where our professionals will share about life in the workplace and their early career experiences. If you like what you hear today, I would encourage you to visit the careers page on our website. We have a dedicated careers page specifically for internships and new graduates. So I would encourage you to check that out and learn more about the opportunities that await you at WGI. Today, we're talking with 4 members of our transportation team. Rick Joseph is an engineer from our West Palm Beach office and is a graduate of Florida Atlantic University. Hi, Rick. He was also an intern with the Florida Department of Transportation during his college years. Sierra Eads is an architect out of our Tampa office, and she has her undergraduate degree from the University of Florida, 4th ranked football team in the country, and her Master's of Architecture degree from Tulane University, who will never be the 4th ranked football team.
No, we
won't. Lauren is from our Tampa office. She's a roadway design engineer. Having graduated from the University of South Florida, Lauren has worked on multiple projects for the Florida Department of Transportation. And prior to joining us full-time, Lauren was an intern with WGI. And Julian Gomez is a structural specialist from our Fort Lauderdale office. And he graduated from Florida International University with his civil engineering degree. Our transportation practice is one of the largest groups within WGI by number of team members and revenue. We have transportation team members spread across the country with many interns and new hires landing in places like Orlando, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm Beach, Florida, and most recently in Austin, Texas, as we have expanded to that market. As we visit today, I would encourage you to ask questions at any time using the Q&A or chat tab in your Zoom browser. We'll review the questions as they come in and get them asked before the end of our session here today. So with that out of the way, let us get started. We're going to start with Rick. First question is for you, and it is, when you were a senior in college, did you know that you wanted to be in the transportation field and a transportation engineer? And if you did, how did you come to that conclusion? And if not, how did you end up in your seat today?
I will. Thank you for having me on. And I guess I didn't really know that I wanted to be a transportation engineer right out of college. I knew I wanted some engineering design experience. I also knew how important transportation engineering is to South Florida. It's one of, if not the biggest engineering industry in South Florida. So, um, however, I I was also interested in structural engineering and civil land development. So, um, my goal for finding a job after college was just to find opportunities with a company that offers a variety of engineering services and has several engineering positions available. So WGI checked all the boxes and had a position available in transportation. So that's pretty much how I ended up here 2 years in now. So
2 years in?
yeah.
And what does a typical day on the job look like for you 2 years in?
I usually start my day. I get in contact with the project managers that I'm working with, and just kind of organize my task in the mornings. And throughout the day, I work on my tasks. I try to get everything done. Kind of just spend time focusing on what I need to get done with the projects that I'm working on. And we have a very friendly group, so some time is spent, just catching up with the cube mates, um, and figuring out what they're working on and things like that. And then towards the end of the day, I'll just check in with the project manager again, kind of let them know what progress I've made and how things are coming along.
Great, great. Thank you, Rick. Lauren, the next question is for you. You had an internship at WGI before becoming a full-time team member. I'm going to ask you how the internship went, but let's start with how you secured that internship and how you were introduced to the firm and ultimately how you ended up as an intern at WGI, because I think for many of our listening audience, they'll be very curious of just how to get their foot in the door, whether it's at WGI or someplace else.
Yeah, so first of all, I would definitely recommend doing internships during your time in college. I actually had done 2 previous with Texas Department of Transportation, and that was just a networking thing. I knew people who worked there, and that helped me kind of get my foot in the door here, that they had seen that I had that previous experience with the department. But I submitted my resume at a career fair and got called back, did the interview, etc. So that's kind of how I got the internship, was through the career fair. So yeah.
So you met our recruiter there, and then
Right.
The process commenced. And during your internship, what kind of, well, you can comment on your internship with TxDOT or at WGI. What kind of things were you working on, and how did it help you to decide what your ultimate path would be post-graduation?
So one of the things that I love about our group here at WGI is that it doesn't matter what level you're at, down to our interns, you're working on the project. You have a very active role in it. So I was doing, some of the supporting calculations and the design work, the plans, production, et cetera. I was doing what our new graduates do during my time.
Great, great. Tiara, you are an architect within the transportation group, and that makes you a little bit unique. Tell us a little bit how that fits in and what kind of things you're working on day to day within our transportation practice.
Right. So the architecture team as a whole, we kind of have our own little subgroup, but day to day we focus a lot with FDOT projects. It's still such a new division within the transportation of WGI that we're gaining traction and trying to bring in different types of projects. But right now our daily focus has been working with the Florida Department of Transportation, and it's not the most glamorous work, but my day-to-day is an adventure because I'm learning so many new things so quickly. I've been at WGI for a year and a half. Yeah, about a year and a half now. And I'm coordinating, I'm working on plans, I'm designing, and I'm taking on much more responsibility than I would at a larger, strictly architecture firm. And the group that I work with is small, and it's a great benefit to responsibility and developing my own professional confidence as well as my social confidence.
Great. Being in a smaller group, not a large architecture firm, you get to touch many more aspects of the project and see how the client's actually thinking about the project in real time. So I'm sure it's very valuable as you learn the profession and ultimately become a leader in the profession. So that's great. Thank you, Sierra. Julian, we're going around the clock here. I'm actually going to give you a question from the audience. Satyajit is a PhD student at the University of Florida and wants to know what kind of work, structural work, would be assigned to a graduate engineer in your group. And as the structural expert, I've handpicked you to answer this one.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, Will. Hey, Jeet, I saw the message. I like that you are doing structures. That's very interesting. I love it. Obviously, that's what I do. For a graduate level, I mean, just an entry level structural engineer, what you would do is we want to expose you to the projects that we're working on right away. And a lot of it will have to do with learning the lingo, just the language that we would use in the field and just as we're doing it in real world, where it's a little different when it remains in the conceptual area in school, in the theory in school. And so making that connection between what you're learning in school and the concepts behind it to real world applications is very important. And I think that's one of the first things that I learned and probably one of the biggest challenges at first. So you would be exposed to the processes that we follow for certain designs, depending on the structure that we're working on. We work on bridges mainly, but we also do retaining walls and different miscellaneous structures like overhead signs over highways, the big old signs that are over the highway when you drive through it. So not just bridges. And I like what Sierra said about it being an adventure, because I feel like, 5 years, I've been about 5 years now, I'm still learning new things. What's really cool is that we do have interns here in the Fort Lauderdale office. There's one of our interns is working on sign structures that I haven't had the chance to work on yet. And I've been here for 5 years. So that's really cool. There's always something new to learn, especially with structures. So we want to just expose you to what we're working on at the time. And it can range from a bridge project to sign structures to a retaining wall for a drainage structure. So I hope that helps answer your question.
Great. Thank you, Julian. You touched on it a little bit, but I want to give all four of you the opportunity to answer this question. And it is, was there anything surprising about starting your career, or did you experience anything that caught you off guard or for which you were not prepared? And ultimately, how did you get past that and overcome it? And Rick, you're smiling at me. I'll give you each a second to think about it. So a surprising challenge or something you weren't prepared for coming out of school, and how you overcame it or You can make light of it if it's something funny.
I like this question, Will. When I was in school, like what I imagined it would be like to work for an engineering firm, I envisioned working on plan sets and using CAD software to develop plans. But the classes I was taking were more theoretical. Everything was about, you know, really specific design. Um, so as I got closer to graduation, I really wasn't sure what to expect. Um, so none of the classes really focused on plans production components. I was super surprised when like the first thing I was asked to do is help QC a plan set. I was like, okay. College taught me pretty much everything, but how to properly read and QC a plan set. So I would say that was probably one of the biggest surprises, is just probably how close the work experience was to what I was imagining it to be, and how different the college experience was in general. So
that's a great answer. I don't think I looked at a plan set in college either. Lauren, what say you on that one?
Yeah, I think for me, it was more of a surprise of how much more you have to continue to learn. Like you get out and you think you know everything, and then you get into it and you're like, wow, there's like so much more that you have to dive down and learn. And so for me, I almost didn't feel prepared coming out of college. And I think I've seen that reflected in a lot of our new hires as well. You get in and you're just so overwhelmed with all this knowledge. And I always tell people, like, it's fine. Like after you've been doing this, like a month even, it's going to make so much more sense. But for me, I was just a little bit shocked with like how much more I still had to learn.
Great. Sierra?
No, I'm completely with Lauren on that one. When I first started, I had no clue what I was doing. I felt like college did not prepare me. Yeah. I thought I knew everything about designing, about architecture, and I thought I was good to go. And then I get out into the real world and I realize, oh, it's coordinating. It's not just putting together a plan set, it's detailing the set, detailing every little element that goes into something. And every day I'm on Google, I'm researching as I'm working, because I'm trying to be as knowledgeable as I can about any little thing. And somehow I'm still just, I was not prepared for how much knowledge that I still needed. But
right. And it's almost like a new language. You don't know all the little terms and everything that you get in the industry. And that's all just a huge learning curve that you don't really expect, because you think you graduated, you had this degree, you're competent. And then it's like, no, you have so much more. And just continuously all throughout your career, you just have to continue to learn. And so I think that was a little bit of an eye opener for me.
I think you hit the nail on the head there too, a little bit with that statement, because there is such a learning curve, and you have to get used to that learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said earlier, for me, a big one was the lingo. Learning to be able to communicate what it is that I needed for a particular design, and being clear if I didn't understand, so that I could get the help that I wanted and needed. What's really good, I mean, I've enjoyed it so much, and here in WGI, I've been surrounded with engineers with more experience that are always willing to help, and they're always willing to explain why we do things the way we do. So that's such a huge help when learning, so that in the moments when you do feel overwhelmed, you have people that you can go to that can help you move along. So it's not crushing in those moments. It's part of the learning process. So.
Those are all very valuable answers. As a follow-up to that, I've been out of college for more than 1 decade now. So without putting an exact number on it, I was shocked that the software we used in practice had not been introduced to me largely when I was in school. Whether that, was a water modeling software, or the software we used to actually build the plans, like AutoCAD or MicroStation. Did Julian or Sierra, did you find that you actually learned the software in college that you're using now, or was that something you learned on the job?
I would say that I did take one Revit class for Autodesk when I was in school to learn kind of the basics, but I didn't perfect my skills until I started working. And I think that's just every day you come up with a different technology challenge, because years ago it was about the drafting, and now it's into the
into the 3D model. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I didn't get prepared in school for the software that we use. And I think something that would set apart somebody coming out of college is if they have knowledge. Maybe you're going to pick up this experience while you're working, but if you have knowledge of the programs that we use and maybe know a little bit of what they are, and especially if you get the chance to work using them on personal projects or even in an internship, that will set you apart from everyone, especially now with the 3D modeling, where even the people in the industry are new to it as well.
Which almost provides the younger generation an advantage as an early modeling stuff. Mm-hmm. That's something else to keep in mind. Mohammed has a question, and it is, what would you recommend for someone who has no internship experience to get an internship? But I'm going to give that one to Lauren, since you had 3 of them. You were collecting internships. So I'll let you answer Mohammed's question.
So, like I said, my first one with TxDOT, that was just through, I knew somebody who worked at the department. So I kind of got that through connections, so networking. And then that follow-up helped me obtain this one. But this didn't personally help me, but in college, I was president of Engineers Without Borders. And so I worked with a lot of people, a lot of students. And so then whenever I graduated, and we were like, hey, we need an intern. Do you know anybody? I knew those students in Engineers Without Borders. And so we've had 2 of our interns here and 1 full-time hire, all just through that connection. So like, even while you're in school now, get involved with your organizations and everything, because even if you don't get an internship with it, maybe somebody else gets a full-time job and then they refer you. So networking is really the biggest thing, as much as we engineers hate it so much, but it's really the biggest thing.
I think it's critical. That's actually one of my questions is, the importance of networking and involvement in student organizations while you're in school. And that really doesn't change once you're in the workforce. Being part of professional organizations and holding leadership roles in professional organizations does expand your network and does bring opportunities, whether it's to you personally or the organization you're working to be a part of. So I'm very, very happy you touched on both networking and involvement in groups like Engineers Without Borders. Rick, in your internship with FDOT, did networking or professional or student organizations play a role in that opportunity? How did you help with the Department of Transportation?
Absolutely. I was attending professional society meetings, engineering professional society meetings from I would say my sophomore year. I would just go to them just to see who was in attendance, and there would be always representatives from the Florida Department of Transportation there. I would speak with the alumni and of the college who are already working in the field, and other young professionals, to kind of get an idea of what they did, and kind of charted my path based off of that. I knew about the Florida Department of Transportation. I didn't know exactly what they did. My first internship was with Turner Construction Company. Pretty big construction company internationally, very well known here in the U.S. And with them, I pretty much supervised subcontractors installing MEP, drywall, things of that nature. So I was really looking for a design experience, and I applied for a design internship with FDOT, but ended up working in their office of modal development and assisting the freight coordinator there, who was pretty much responsible for funding different projects in District 4, ensuring the stakeholders were involved in the process of creating these projects. And yeah, that was pretty much my experience with them. I shadowed him, and I worked on corridor study of Sample Road to improve public transportation and pedestrian facilities. So that was like my internship with them over the 3 semesters of my senior year.
That's great. That's great. I know my first internship was as a land surveyor, and I was looking for a design type experience as an intern. And before my junior year, so the summer between my sophomore and junior year, I got no bites for a design internship. Employers looked at me like I didn't have the schooling experience yet to get a design-based internship. So I actually got a surveying internship in the field, and probably much like you at Turner, Rick, that was eye-opening for me. And seeing the field before doing the design actually helped a lot, and understanding how things get built, and that you can't come up with something so complex that people can't put it together with a tape measure in the field, for example. Mm-hmm. You tell them where to put it. So that was a very valuable learning experience for me also, probably much like your Turner internship. So Mohammed, as you're looking for an internship, consider, something more in the construction type world before the office design type world. If you're struggling there, you also heard the importance of networking and involvement in student organizations. So I would encourage you to do that. Shelby wants to know if somebody wants an internship, but they're not sure what direction within civil engineering to go. Do you have any advice there? So it's civil engineering is broad. It's of course structural engineering, but it's transportation engineering, roadway design. It can be drainage engineering. And I know you guys have drainage engineers on your team. It can be land development. It can be geotechnical, soil and earth engineers. So at least 3 of you have a civil engineering degree as an undergraduate, and you ended up in transportation. So at some point you made that decision. And I want to hear a little bit about that and try to answer Shelby's question about, if you're undecided, what would you do, or what did you guys end up doing when you got to that point? Julian, you want to kick us off there?
Yeah, of course. I guess it would depend on how far away you are from graduating. But say you're a junior or you've got about 2 semesters to go. I think if you were able to, you have that time to explore the different fields. For me, I started off with an internship in geotechnical engineering. And I did that for about 4 or 6 months, where I got to see some of the things that a geotech engineer does. I drove a truck around to different job sites and marked where they were going to dig a hole. I drove around, picked up soil samples to do lab tests, and then took them back to the office and ran numbers on an Excel spreadsheet. So I got the opportunity to see what that field and what that career would look like. And from there, I got an internship in a structural engineering company for buildings. So not in transportation yet, but I got more of the structural engineering side for small residential buildings and structural repairs. So by exploring even just those 2 And even before that, I liked structural engineering. I didn't have an opinion on geotech engineering. I was undecided, but the opportunity presented itself, so I took it. So I would encourage you to if you're undecided, to look for those opportunities without putting too many constraints around what field. What I really like about WGI is that we do so many different types of services that even if you were to intern for one particular field, you can even build the same you can build connections within the company if you wanted to try to switch to a different field within the same company for another semester, or just depending. But I would just encourage you to explore, use that time that you have now before you graduate to explore the different fields.
So don't get too hung up on deciding. Pursue these there and see how you like it.
Yeah.
Like as a summary. Sierra, would you agree with that? Do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, seeing as I really, did not go into an internship, architecture itself has its own different divisions that are pretty typical, educational, government, transportation, obviously being one of them. We all get out of school and we think that we're going to build skyscrapers. That's always the architect thought. And I mean, I thought the same thing, but I've learned a lot from transportation. And I think just when you're young, it takes time to figure out exactly where you fit. And it's okay to not fit exactly right on your first go around. And eventually you'll get there, but it takes time. I fell into WGI and I have no regrets. So it just, not to get too crazy, but or too spiritual, I guess. But life and fate are gonna put you where you're supposed to be. You just gotta put some trust into it and feel things out and feel what's right for you.
And regardless of what field you end up in, you make the most of it with your attitude and work ethic and your communication skills. If you have those three things, you'll thrive no matter what field, engineering or architecture, you end up in. Shelby had a follow-up to that that I'll ask Lauren. If someone might be a mechanical engineering major, but they're interested in civil engineering now, number one, is that a deal breaker? And number two, how would they go about making that change?
So for us, our director of drainage, his degree is actually in industrial engineering. So I'm going to say nothing is off the table. The main thing is your work experience, I would say. Once you have that degree, you get your FE, everything else. I don't know that the specifics of it matters that much as your work experience and your competence. We also have another designer in the office. Her degree is in physics. And so she has to go back to school to do a few classes so she can get her FE. But again, she wasn't a civil engineering major. So it's really about the work experience, I would say. And then to kind of echo what Julian was saying, with our company, we have so many different areas that if you started out with one department and you're this, hard worker and everything, you have a good work ethic, but you don't really feel like this is where you fit. I feel like our company is very good about, being like, well, why don't you try out this department or whatever, if you just kind of vocalize your interests and whatnot while you're an intern, you can have those experiences.
Great. I too had a previous supervisor in civil engineering who was a mechanical engineering undergrad. So by no means is that an insurmountable obstacle. And Lauren mentioned something in her answer about, your area of competence is based on your experience. And just because you have a civil engineering PE doesn't mean you can seal a highway, a bridge, a parking lot, and the foundation for a high-rise building. You need to be competent in each of those areas. And the second part of that is all engineers take the same FE. So the real happens post-graduation to begin with. So keep that in mind, Shelby, as you consider that choice of profession there. I'm going to do another roundtable question as we're out of audience questions for the moment. And that is, what's been the most rewarding part of your time at WGI so far? What's been your favorite part of working at WGI? Rick, I'll start that one with you, since everyone's talked since you last spoke. So you're up now.
Yeah. I think the most rewarding thing is the relationships that I've formed. The people I get to work with every day are brilliant, super intelligent, and they have great personalities. And I think that they make working a lot easier. You know, you come into work and, you know, you kind of have a family, and you guys get things done. You guys learn off of each other. So for me, one of the things I struggled a lot with was kind of just my own personal insecurities, and everyone here has made me feel very comfortable with myself and has accepted me. So I think that that's probably one of the most valuable things I'll take away from my experience with WGI so far.
Great. Julian?
Yeah, I definitely share Rick's favorite. I can totally relate. As a number two, working on projects that have impacted my community. Where I went to school at FIU, there's a highway right next to it called the Flores Turnpike, and it's a very important highway. It runs up and down the state, and the majority of Floridians will use it. So going to high school in that area, going to the college there, and coming into like working in my career, I got to work on a project on that highway. And I got to work on the bridges that I would cross to get to school. And so the design over several years, it took about, since I got started, maybe like 4 years, I started working on that project. And now when I go to visit my mom, I drive under a bridge that they're building that I designed. I helped design that bridge. And so that's always rewarding. And I get to boast a little bit and tell my mom, hey, that's the bridge I worked on.
By show of hands, have anyone else driven around with their family members or friends in the car and said, I designed that?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, look, I did that. I did that. You want to see the plans? Look, here.
My wife, she doesn't do it anymore, but there was a 10-year window before we got in the car that she would say, now don't point out the projects you've worked on. Lauren, how about your most rewarding experience so far?
You know, it's really to echo what has already been said. One, I love our group. I love the environment. So that is rewarding, just to come to work and actually like the people that you're working with, and it to not feel daunting or anything. And then really, it's just so cool to see what you've been doing on paper and all this work, time you've been putting into it, and then to see it in the field is pretty cool.
Great. How about you, Sierra?
I mean, I'm going to follow suit on that a little bit. You know, I almost went down the engineering path myself. So when I'm around a group of engineers, I kind of feel a little bit at home, not going to lie. And a few of us will do morning coffee in the mornings, and we'll get our discussions out and we'll go through all that. And then definitely a second is just the density of knowledge that I've been provided with. I'm really grateful to have learned so much in such a short amount of time.
I agree with that. There's like a moment whenever you realize that you've kind of transitioned from knowing nothing to, wow, like I know things. So that was pretty cool, especially whenever you have newer people coming in and then you start training them and you realize how much you've learned in such a short period of time. That's a pretty cool feeling too.
Great answers, guys. Satyajit has another question, and I may end up taking this one. Graduating in May 2021, when do interviews start for May graduates? Satyajit, that would be in the new year, probably mid to the second half of January. We will start attending the spring career fairs in person or digital, however they may be hosted at that point, and in anticipation of hiring May grads and summer interns. So both May graduates and summer interns interviews will commence mid to late January and through the spring period there. I have one more question. I'll give you two more questions unless we get one from the audience. And that is related to COVID-19. All of us here on the webinar had the unknown advantage of not experiencing a pandemic during our schooling and our hiring and the start of our career. Kids coming out of school now don't necessarily have that advantage, although they also have a level of resiliency that perhaps we weren't able to achieve. So my question is, how has COVID-19 impacted the day-to-day work environment, and what has changed from 7 months ago? So from February to October, your work has changed, the way you work has changed. So I'd like you to, if each of you would just shed a little bit of light on that subject for the benefit of our audience as they navigate a hiring process where in-person interactions are tough to come by due to factors outside of their control. So Sierra, I'll let you kind of start with that, how COVID has impacted you, and then we'll go around the table.
I think the sheer amount of flexibility has been a thing. You can tell I'm working from home today. I kind of a little bit of a cold, and I wasn't sure if it was COVID or a cold. So immediately it's like, okay, I gotta work from home. I gotta make sure I'm on top of things. So then there's that turn where it's like, all right, I'm working from home. I have to be confident. I can't run to my director every time I have like a little issue. So there is a development of professional confidence that is a positive from COVID that I probably would have taken a lot longer to develop had I've been working from the office, because you always have that like person in the back corner that's ready to help you out and fix everything.
Have you had to be more proactive in soliciting and obtaining help from
Definitely
senior designers?
Definitely. I've had to really push myself and then make decisions. And then if the decision's wrong, just be ready to remedy that decision that I made and go back and fix it. So that's all you really can do. Working with the technology has helped quite a bit too.
Yep. Julian, what do you think about how has COVID-19 impacted the way you were working prior to?
It's definitely made a big impact. We are a relatively small office, I think less than 20 people. So with COVID, it was a time when there was only two or three of us in the office. So what prepared us for COVID was that we were already doing a good job of work sharing with other offices. We do a lot of work with the Tampa Structures Group and the Roadway Group in Jacksonville. And so we were already doing work together remotely with other offices. It really impacted the work that we do in our group here in Fort Lauderdale. And yeah, I wasn't able to just get up out of my chair and walk, over 10 seconds to my coworker's office to ask him a question or ask him for direction. So we had to be, like you said, more proactive in communicating, more description, more explanation in our questions whenever we sent out an email. Also had to anticipate maybe not getting a response from them until an hour or two later. So that affected the way I planned my tasks. because if I knew that they might take an hour to respond, then I don't want to sit and just kind of not do anything until they respond. So it like Sierra said, it definitely helped me grow professionally. But on the plus side, I think we were in a good place that it didn't take us too much by surprise because of the good job that we do with work sharing. And I think coming in from school, the technology may not be a big challenge. I think especially with the people coming out of school, they may be more used to it, but they may not have that opportunity to talk to people in person and ask those questions and get that interaction, which is definitely a challenge.
And something that needs to be consciously addressed. Getting that face-to-face interaction, even by Zoom, is even more critical now, because it would be easy for someone to get lost in the shuffle. Mm-hmm. Rick, you're back in the office now, and you're also in the largest office. Tell us a little bit how COVID-19 impacted your day-to-day, and a little bit sense of normalcy has returned, perhaps. So tell us about that.
Yeah, we used to be able to access the building through pretty much any door that was available. And now because of the safety practices that have been implemented, we all come through the front door. We stop at a kiosk that checks our temperature after washing our hands or sanitizing our hands. And we really only have a few routes around the building. That way they would be able to, I guess, determine where the impacted area was, just in case something was to happen here. There hasn't been any cases like that. So I think WGI has been doing a really good job in just making sure everyone's being safe. But apart from the communication challenges that we face, I mean, I think things are pretty good day to day. I mean, I feel like I definitely am kind of a little better at managing my task, because there was a period of time where no one was in the office. I was still coming in, but everyone was working from home, and it just made me a lot better at communicating with Zoom, Jabber, and Microsoft Teams. And now that everyone's back, it's still my preferred way of communicating with people. I could just stay at my desk and just, shoot someone a Jabber message, or, see them face to face through Zoom or Microsoft Teams. So,
isn't that the truth? Yeah, I don't think the face to face by video is going away anytime soon. And you're still not, willy-nilly walking over to someone's desk and standing right next to them, ready to talk about a design. So that change, I think we're going to have in front of us for the foreseeable future, at least. Lauren, were your experiences similar to the other three?
I think so. Again, just echoing what's already been said with what Sierra said, it did kind of give everybody a sense of independence and having to step up their game a little bit, because you just can't manage people, whenever everybody's working from home and everything is closely. And it did, force you to stop and think, is this worth a phone call, or can I just Google this really quickly? Versus if you're in the office, you're just like, hey, and you ask the question. And so I think it did help professional development to have to learn things on your own a little bit, and kind of step up in that manner. Things are pretty much business as usual at this point. We take our temperatures in the morning and we wear masks if we're, can't maintain proper social distancing. But we've hired 2 new hires in the pandemic period. One of them, he started whenever everybody was working from home. And so it was just him and our supervisor in the office, and so there was a lot of screen sharing and learning on the phone and everything else. And then our second new hire, she just started about 3 weeks ago. And other than just wearing masks whenever we, are communicating, it's pretty much been business as usual at this point.
My biggest heartbreak is the loss of the team lunch. Being able to have lunch with your team, a couple was always Well, it's always a highlight getting to know people personally, and that loss to me, the face-to-face where you're not actually on the job part has been the hardest for me. I think we're wrapping up. We do have one more question from the audience, and that is, what software packages, top two or three software packages are you guys using right now to do your job?
So right now I'm drainage. So we do MicroStation and we're learning Open Roads. Those are two big design softwares. We also just day to day use the Word and, PowerPoint, and well, not PowerPoint, but Excel and, that whole Office suite. And then Bluebeam are the main tools that we have.
Is HEC-RAS on the list? Do you use HEC-RAS?
We do use HEC-RAS. I've been here 2.5 years and I've actually only used it once, but it is on the list. ICPR, ASAD, all of those.
Okay. I've got HEC-RAS nightmares. I've spent many hours trying the model to work.
Yeah.
How about you, Rick, as a design engineer?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same stuff that the drainage engineers are using, MicroStation, V8i, and Open Roads. As we're transitioning to 3D deliverables and models, everyone's just basically trying to run their projects out of Open Roads now, there's a learning curve with that. So it's always nice to kind of go back and get to work in V8i, but those are probably the two biggest softwares that we use here. And of course, as Lauren already mentioned, Bluebeam, the Microsoft Office suite, stuff like that.
Great. And Sierra, in architecture, I heard you mention Revit.
Yeah.
Which does talk to the building structural designers and MEP designers. So what beyond Revit, if anything, are you using?
We've also used SketchUp, and for 3D projects, we've been dealing with rendering programs, mostly Lumion, and we're looking into a few others, but those I think are the three big programs that we'll use, and we'll import a lot from AutoCAD. So I guess, minor AutoCAD knowledge, and we definitely coordinate a lot with Structures and MEP to bring in their Revit models into ours. So it fully encompasses a lot of different elements, which is great.
And they do collaborate with the other disciplines, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Julian, as the structural of the group, what structural softwares haven't been mentioned?
Yeah, I think for sure the classic Excel. If you can improve your Excel skills, just using all the different functions, and if you can think of it and code it in Excel, that's so good. It's a plus. We use Excel all the time. But for specific structural, like bridge engineering design, we use Leap Bridge Concrete. It's a Bentley product. Bentley would be like the main mother software solutions company. So Leap Bridge Concrete, and also for modeling. If you get some knowledge on this, will definitely set you apart. It's the 3D bridge modeler. And as an industry in transportation, we're moving towards 3D modeling. So those would be the ones.
Great answers. Well, we'll wrap it up. Thank you, Lauren, Sierra, Julian, and Rick. This has been wonderful. You've provided tremendous insight. And I've enjoyed our hour together. Hopefully our audience has as well. Before we wrap up, I would be remiss if I didn't remind our listening guests that this is just one in a series of Career Conversations events. Coming up on October 27th, we will hear from team members on our Structural Solutions team. We are also attending virtual career fairs at Purdue University and the University of North Florida this week, Thursday, I believe, October 8th. So if you're a Purdue student or University of North Florida student, I'd encourage you to visit with us at those career fairs. You can find out about additional career fairs where we will be attending on our website. You can go, the URL's there at the bottom of your screen, wginc.com/conversations. And of course, we are social at WGI. We like to network and get to know people and communicate through social media channels as well. So you can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and we have our own YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to visiting again soon in a career conversation session, and hopefully meeting you in person soon at a career fair or in an interview. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Will.
Bye.
Thank you.